Welcome to In the News for February 27th, 2026. I am Brett Burney from appsandlaw.com.
And this is Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD. Good morning, Brett.
Good morning, Jeff. It's I can feel the excitement in the air for next week. We talked about this last week, that next week Apple's going to have an announcement. And, I put a block on my calendar for next Wednesday morning, but apparently, according to Tim Cook, I'm going to have to extend that block on my calendar because there's going to be apparently announcements starting on Monday now.
This is one of the things we talked about last week. Not only what will Apple announce, but how will Apple announce it? And one of the things that we speculated on was that instead of just having a single day announcement, they may stretch it out over a few days. And sure enough, Tim Cook decided to announce that they were going to have a good week ahead, not just a day, starting on Monday.
A good week, so a big week. He says exactly. A big week ahead.
So my guess is what they're going to do is they're going to have it announced. They're going to have a press release on Monday, a press release on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, a press release combined with maybe some sort of a video presentation, and then hands-on for some journalists that are invited to the 3 different spots in, what was it, New York, Shanghai, and London, I think.
Shanghai,
there you go, to do it. Now, as to what they're going to do in the different days, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Monday was the new iPhone 17e, because that will probably be the least, did I say 17? So, yeah, 17. That will probably be the least interesting of the announcements because, it's just going to be a lower end iPhone with some stripped out features. Last year's 16e lacked the what is it called? The MagSafe on the back of it. And I will be curious to see if maybe now even the lowest of the low end iPhones has MagSafe in the 17e. But otherwise, that'll just be, the low end budget phone, which is still going to be a great phone for people. That there have been many times over the years that I have bought, whether it was the E version or way back when the C version for some loved ones that just needed the simplest of all iPhones. So if I had to put my money on it, I would guess that that's going to be the Monday announcement in a press release.
Okay.
But then, and then, of course, the big rumor is that Apple is going to have a low-end MacBook. Maybe they'll just call it MacBook, period, with nothing after it, like the word Pro or anything like that.
Nothing.
Yeah, just a MacBook, nothing. And if that came in at a very attractive price point, that would be really interesting, right? Especially if it came in some interesting colors, it'd be perfect for students and stuff like that. So my guess is if that rumor is correct, since that would be something relatively new, my guess is that's the one that they hold back for Wednesday, because that would be something that they could announce it. And then the press could get their hands on it and take pictures of it and see all the different colors, if it comes in and stuff like that. So then that would leave the Tuesday, right? And what would the Tuesday announcement be? Could be a new base level iPad. But anything's possible. So could be an iPad Air, could be both, all sorts of possibilities.
I feel like this is Apple experimenting a little bit more. Like, they're going back to an in-person event. And we know that that's going to happen on Wednesday, right? People have gotten the invitations and everything, but nothing's stopping them from, just kind of sprinkling in a few other little announcements. It's just the speculation has gone rampant. It's just like, what else could it be? And, all of these that you just went through are sort of expected. Like I would expect pretty much all of these. I mean, the MacBook, potentially nothing is something new, but it's like, I want new, like, AirPods Max or, something else with, a HomePod thing. I was something surprising that's a little more spectacular, but I don't know. This little tiny video that accompanied Tim Cook's X post, it makes me think here they're gonna release Apple Silly Putty or something. I mean, it's like fingers like squeezing an apple. It's very quick in the way it did it, but it's just like, what are you kind of molding a new apple? I mean, who knows? These are all kind of cryptic in what they send around. I mean, this is even the picture of the invitation, right? That they had kind of like this glass layers of an Apple logo. I mean, everybody just loves to kind of guess about what that's gonna look like, but we won't know until just a few days from now, I guess. Interesting stuff.
I'll mention one more thing about the way that Apple announces products like this. There have been rumors that Apple would be interested in moving from a single iPhone release, with the exception of the low end iPhone like the E, into, and I don't know if they'll ever do this, to maybe in the fall they just come out with the high-end iPhones, and in the spring they would come out with the low end, not the lowest, not just the lowest one, like what we presume is going to be the 17E next week, but even what would be the equivalent of the 17. That's what Samsung does. Apparently, Samsung has 2 big releases every year instead of 1.
Oh,
And
okay.
it would just be a way for Apple to sort of spread things out. I have no idea if that rumor has any legs on it or not, but it's something that I've heard people speculate about, for the last, especially the last couple of months. The only reason I even mentioned it today is because I don't think we have this in the show notes today, but I noted this in my post this morning that Samsung just had their spring announcement, or early, beginning of the year announcement, or
Yes.
whatever, and maybe we're still in winter. But
Yeah.
and I did think it was worth noting that they have a phone that they announced called the Galaxy S26 Ultra, which is their highest level Galaxy phone. So like this would be the equivalent of like the
Yeah.
17 Pro Max, right? It's the biggest, it's the most expensive. I think it starts at like $1,200, something like that. But what's interesting about it is it has this one new feature that would have like a privacy feature on it. For decades
Right.
now, we've all seen these things that you can purchase that are plasticky, and you put them on your laptop, and you put them on your iPhone screen, and they make it that when you turn it, somebody that's looking over your shoulder can't see it unless they're looking straight on. And
Right.
you've never owned one of those before, have you?
I find them to be too much trouble than they're worth,
Yeah.
right? It's like
And
if I'm on a plane or something, I just kind of move around, and I don't want to mess with the screen protector thing.
the other thing I don't like about them is, and I've seen them for years and years and years, but like they really reduce, like they make it harder to see your screen, even when you yourself are looking at it straight on.
Exactly. I don't
It's
like
sort of
that.
like it's like a shade on your screen. So what is in theory pretty innovative about what Samsung has done is it's not something on top of the screen, but it's actually the hardware of the phone, the way that they light up the pixels from
Yeah.
behind, so that they light some from the side, from the behind, and some from the side. And so in software, you can just say, I want you to turn off or turn on the privacy display. And if you turn on the
Right.
privacy display, as I understand it, the pixels that are looking straight at you will be the same, but the light that would come to the pixels from the side is turned off. And the idea is that if you have sensitive information on your screen, which is something that lawyers always have to deal with attorney-client privilege, or doctors with HIPAA stuff and everything else, if you're on a plane, or if you're in a public transit and you don't want the people next to you to see it, it's a way that you can just sort of turn this on and off. And the way that Samsung's done it is very clever, because it's even can be done on an app by app basis. Like you can say, for example, I want to have the regular screen most of the time, but when you give me an alert, like a pop-up alert, I want
Right.
that pop-up alert to have the
Ooh, I
privacy
like
thing
that.
turned on it. So it's very clever. And I've only seen that one review that I'm sure there are more, but like they just started to show it. The one that I linked to from The Verge is somebody that had a chance to look at it in a demo area. So I mean, I want it to be
Yeah.
out in the screen,
Yeah.
but like if this is what it purports to be, this is an interesting feature. And I would love for Apple to copy something like this in the future, because again, for
Exactly.
the type of work that I do, yes, I'm an attorney and I've got confidential information on my screen, but I'm very rarely, except for when I'm on a plane, I'm very rarely in a situation where you don't want someone looking over your shoulder. But I've been there before. I've had times where like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
reading
Oh,
something on my
certainly.
iPad on a plane, and as I'm, even if it's just reading my opponent's brief, as I mark it and annotate it and highlight it, I don't necessarily want the person behind me to like be able to see that. So I think it's an interesting idea. And if it is what it is, so anyway, this was sort of a tangent, but it's, this was something that Samsung is announcing in the beginning of the year. They'll have more products at the end of the year. We'll see if
Yeah.
Apple change that in the future. But yeah, it's always interesting to see innovative stuff come on.
I'm glad you brought this up. I did mean to include this because I saw this earlier this week from Marquez Brownlee. He
Hmm.
had just a short little video where he's doing it in real time, and because he very well knows Samsung phones and Android phones, and he turned it on and he turned it to the side, and it takes a lot to impress Marquez. I mean, he's seen
Hmm.
everything, and he was like, "This is amazing. It works." But I got to tell you, my first thought was similar to what we were just talking about the screen protectors. If it turns off some of those pixels, is that going to degrade my visual experience? And we
Let's
won't know
see.
until I maybe see it. But because sometimes I am looking at the phone kind of at an angle at sometimes, if it's sitting on
Hmm.
the desk or something like that. So it's like I don't want that to degrade. Although I like that you can turn it off and on, you can customize it.
Yeah.
And then my
And
second thought
you can
is,
adjust it too. Like
yeah.
apparently you can dial it up
Oh,
or dial it
really?
down.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
that's what I've read at least. So
And then my second thought is, why hasn't Apple done this before? Like, this is brilliant. This is great. You talk about your privacy things. I mean, the fact that you can turn it off or you can customize it, or like you say, you can adjust it, and that's fantastic. That is absolutely brilliant. And I would definitely do a screen protector. I've certainly never had one for my phone. When we say a screen protector, I typically think of like a laptop. That's where I see it most of the time. But I've never put one on the phone. More so, I feel like the screen protector on the phone isn't so much on the privacy side. It's been more for just, you don't want to scratch your screen, which is true too. But I've just never done it. I mean, I feel like the Gorilla Glass and everything is more than adequate. But for something like this, I would definitely have this on the phone. It's like, come on, Apple. I wish I could announce this next week, but I don't know if I don't think that that's going to be in the works for next week. But I want it on my Apple iPhone now. That'll be good.
Well, if there's ever going to be a place where I might see somebody who has the very latest and greatest technology, it would be in 4 weeks at Chicago.
Look at you.
That's our transition into the next topic. Go ahead.
That's brilliant. I was going to say all of this is next week, and you're right. In 4 weeks, you and I will be in Chicago together. Hopefully, we'll find a sliver of time that we can record maybe a podcast and do it live like we did last year. That was so much fun. I remember the puppies running in when we were doing the recording of the podcast there. But we are talking about a conference called the ABA Tech Show. So obviously, as you all dear listeners know, Jeff and I are legal professionals, and so this is basically like our annual Geek Fest, where we get together and talk about all the technology that supports the legal profession, but much more. I'm so excited. Obviously, I've been involved for a long time. Jeff and I kind of met and started presenting together even at Tech Show many, many, many years ago. This is the end of March, the 25th through the 28th. It is in Chicago at the McCormick Place. And I have techshow.com pulled up here, Jeff. And I think if anybody's watching this, you can kind of see it. The image on this website looks a little cartoonish because you and I have talked about the fact that at the exact same days in the McCormick Center, the Chicago Comic-Con is also going to be happening with the ABA Tech Show. But now all of these details are out. You were kind enough to talk about your session. Well, you have 2 sessions that you're going to do, but both of them I'm very excited about. But this one is the practical tips and tools for today's mobile lawyer. You're going to do that with Reed and Steven, a couple of other good friends of ours that are basically iPhone nerds as well. So, I mean, this is just going to be a lot of fun. And then, as you mentioned, I'm very excited. We were just talking about a story from The Verge. We just announced that Nilay Patel, who is the CEO and founder of The Verge, is going to be our second keynote presenter on Friday evening at Tech Show. And I'm really excited about that. I'm glad that you mentioned it today in your post.
Yeah, kudos to you as the co-chair of Tech Show for getting Nilay Patel on it, because I have been, he's a former attorney. I mean, I guess technically he may still be an attorney, but he doesn't practice law anymore. But he certainly understands legal technology. But when I think back over the years to like who are the people that have done some of the best reviews, some of the best videos of things like new models of the iPhone and stuff like that, he has been at the top of the list, right? It's been people like him and Joanna Stern and David Pogue and a couple other people. He's just really the best of the best. And I will tell you that I don't always agree with him, because not that I agree with him, but like he's a lot more platform agnostic than I am. He's more into Android sometimes and iPhone, and I suspect he probably uses both of them right now. I'll be curious to hear him talk about that.
Right.
But sometimes there are things that matter to him that don't matter to me. That's a better way to say it.
Okay, that's fair.
But it gives me a perspective. And so whenever I read his reviews, maybe something that he really doesn't like, I'm like, I don't consider this an issue. Or maybe it's something that I like that he doesn't like. But it's that sort of critical thinking that I just think this is what we always want around us, right? You want to be surrounded by people that have, well-informed opinions and are really thoughtful and have had a history with the industry that they can bring perspective. And like, this is it. So like, I can't imagine a better person for y'all to have gotten as a keynote speaker. So
Nice.
So good job, Brett. Y'all really hit it out of the park. I can't wait to hear them. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to that in a few weeks. If anybody's listening to this, and if you're trying to decide, where to get your CLE hours this year, I'd love to have you join us because it's so much fun.
We actually just released a PDF. We call this the program brochure, which is a PDF file that a lot of people look for because it has like all of the sessions and everything in. So you can find all the information you need at techshow.com and come together, because even as you mentioned, Jeff, one of the things that I definitely look forward to, in addition to seeing you, is you and I typically host a dinner for attendees one of the evenings. That'll be Thursday evening, and they're usually sold out almost immediately. You have to go and sign up at the concierge booth there at the conference. But anyway, would be thrilled to see any of our listeners come up and say hi to either Jeff or myself, and we would be thrilled to see you there. Somebody else that we also used to meet at Tech Show, he hasn't been at the ABA Tech Show in a long time, is David Sparks. Now, many of you may know David Sparks as just an amazing self-professed nerd for Apple stuff, because he runs the MacSparky.com blog. But David also used to be, or may still be, an attorney. He's not practicing anymore because he does full-time for the MacSparky and his labs and everything. We always enjoy linking to one of his stories, and I loved what he talked about today about going wallet free. And we're talking about his physical wallet. I like this story. He left the house, didn't have his physical wallet, but he had his iPhone, which had his California digital ID, his digital insurance, medical insurance card. He was going to the doctor, and his credit card was in Apple Pay. So he's like, I don't even need anything else. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, I will often just jump in my car and do something, and I know that I have my phone, and I don't even grab my wallet, and it's totally fine. When we had Mardi Gras here a week or two ago, I just didn't want to carry around a wallet. It wasn't that I was worried about, losing it or being pickpocketed or something. It's just like something else to deal with. I just didn't want to deal with it, and it was totally fine. I had my phone with me. If I ever needed to have my ID, I had it. There was a couple times that I walked a block away. We had a bunch of people at our house, and I wanted to like buy more ice to, refill the cooler. You got to keep the drinks cold. And it was just, I just had my phone, and I just paid with Apple Pay, and everything was easy. And I mean, of course, I wanted to have my phone on me because I was taking pictures and videos and stuff like that. But I just didn't want to deal with having a wallet, and I didn't have to worry about it. And that's really nice. I still do have a wallet that I use most of the time, but we are definitely getting closer to the day with between a digital license, whether it's in the Apple Wallet app or something else, Apple Pay, all those other things, identifications that, you can, even though, back in the day, you might have a card that you use at a grocery store to get discounts. I mean, that's all digital nowadays. It's just, I'm really happy to be in this world. So I agree with him 100%. It's nice that we can more and more go wallet free.
I've already been there, and I feel like I just want to go even deeper. The only thing I'm going to say on the Apple Wallet is they've got to do something to better organize some of this. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I probably have easily maybe it's got to be close to 60 or 70 items in my Apple Wallet between credit cards that I have in there, the digital ID. I have a bunch of like public transit, from like Boston and New York and San Francisco, like all the places when I travel. So I've probably got maybe easily 6 or 7 just public transit. Then I have my my boarding pass for a flight later today. And then I don't know about you, but almost every coffee shop that I go to today has like, hey, sign up, put in your phone number, you can sign up for points. And I probably have about 15 of like different coffee shops and stuff. And then I have like Panera card, and I have my Starbucks card, and I have my Hilton card. And the point that I'm getting to is like, there's so much, because it is a place that I trust to put everything. And it's just like, it's so much scrolling now that I'm there. And I'm like, I totally agree with what David is talking about here. I'm ready for that world. I want that world. I've been wanting that world, but it's just like, I need a little bit of a better way to maybe start organizing this, because I've got so much in there that's going to be going now. That's not a problem. It's just like, I know Apple could provide a solution there, but I like it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm looking at mine. I've got all my different credit cards in there. I've got my digital ID, which is that sort of digital version of the passport. I've got something in my wallet for my ABA Tech Show pass right there. There you go.
There you go.
That's one of the things y'all have. I've got my car insurance. I've got passes for, I've got all sorts of stuff in there. For me, I don't feel like it's so many that I need to organize it, because you can easily scroll up and down, but it is amazing the number of things that are in there. Starbucks card, my health information if I had to go to the
Right.
hospital.
Right.
Cool stuff.
So again, it's not so much a complaint, it's just more of an observation because, and I didn't realize it just kind of similar to you until I was working with someone that asked a question about using Apple Wallet. And so they were looking at my screen and they're just like, oh my goodness, how many cards do you have? And I'm like, no. It's not all like, the credit cards. I mean, there's a lot of credit cards in there, but it's just everything else. But I like it. I want it to be, I just want it there at some point when we get into this new world a little bit more, it's going to have some additional organizational tools on there. Okay, let's do an InVision setup real quick because you posted about something really fun today, which just makes me smile. If you're a fan of the Muppets, maybe it's definitely time to get an Apple Vision Pro.
So I thought this was an interesting article, not only because of what it's announcing, but also because of what it makes me think about for the future. And here's the issue. There is the link that I did was to the Daily Dot, and they were actually linking, I think they got some of this story from another source that's behind a paywall, and I forget the name of it. But the story is this. One of the exhibits that used to be in Disney World until I think just last year was called MuppetVision 3D. It's been there for a long time.
Okay.
And in fact, it was one of the very last things that Jim Henson was directly involved in before he passed away. So it sort of has that nostalgic aspect of it. And I remember seeing it years ago with my kids. And it's you put on like the 3D glasses, the old style polarized 3D glasses. Well, I say old style, that's still what it is.
Red and blue.
The movie, not quite the red and blue, but the movie itself was in 3D, and because it's the Muppets, they're going to be zany and silly. So like they totally take advantage of the 3D. Like they will like put something right there on your face. It's all that sort of really, being fun with the 3D parts of it. But it was more than just a movie because you were inside a theater at Disney where like, almost like the Country Bear Jamboree, like they've got like things on the side of you and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so the story here is even though the attraction is now gone, Disney's replacing it with something else. Although they are going to have a Muppet theme thing in the future for one of their roller coasters, the one that used to be the Aerosmith roller coaster. But regardless, the experience is now gone, right? So like if you've missed it, like you would never again have a chance to watch it. And so the article this week is that apparently Disney has preserved this and they will be releasing it at some point, who knows when, for the Apple Vision Pro and perhaps some of these other platforms as well. And even for future generations, who knows what technology we'll have 5 or 10 years from now. And at first I thought what it was going to be was just the movie itself, the 3D movie, just to release that for the Vision Pro. And that would be fun, right? But
that'd
according to this article, they were talking to Jim Henson's son, whose name was Brian Henson, I think, that he was talking about how they actually had, or somebody was that was talking to him was saying that Disney put 3D video cameras at different spots in the theater before they shut down the attraction so that you can decide, do I want to sit in the middle of the theater and not only see the 3D movie, but also see the people on the side, or do I want to sit on the left or the right? I'll see how they implement it. So I think it will be, this may not come out for another year, who knows? But whenever it does come out, it will be, first of all, it'll be fun to watch because, Muppets, hey, that's great. But what I especially liked about the story is they're taking an experience that you really want to be there for. It's truly an immersive experience, and it would have been gone forever, right? People would never again be able to experience it. And because they have, preserved it, we will have the ability for us and for future generations to appreciate it. And it makes me think, what other things like this should be preserved for people to have if they're not going to go to Disney World. There are certainly some, just to take Disney, for example, or Universal, those places, there are some rides that are thrill rides. And so you want to like experience being on the roller coaster. Having said that, if you look on YouTube, there are lots of people that take videos of roller coaster experiences just to sort of record it. But so you at least get a tiny bit of the thrill by watching the video. But how many attractions at Disney World are not, thrill rides? It's like, from It's a Small World to be, very mundane, to even some of the other, like, the Disney ones, The Little Mermaid, where you're just sort of staying in one place, or the Pirates of the Caribbean, you're in a single spot. Maybe you go up a little bit on the Pirates of the Caribbean, but you're just looking around and you're looking at the pirates and you're looking at this and you're looking at that. That would be really cool in the Apple Vision Pro, because you might want to watch it multiple times. Like the first time you might want to look to the left, and the second time you might want to look up and look to the right. And you could really appreciate all the detail that went into this. No, it's not the same as being there live, but it's better than nothing. And it would be a way to preserve it. And I don't think it would take away too much from people wanting to go to Disney, because it's not quite the same. But for all the people that don't have a chance to go, and when rides shut down, And then of course it could go beyond Disney too. I mean, what are other experiences, whether it's, seeing a live theater production or
Yeah.
something else that, again, it's not the same as being there in person, but it might be the next best thing. And it's certainly better than just like a single camera where, as much as I loved what Disney did with the Hamilton, for example, when they recorded the original production of Hamilton on Broadway, and then that came
Oh
out during
yeah.
the pandemic, and that was fun to watch. But, things where it's not just limited to a screen, but it's immersive. So you could look up, down, and around. Again, amusement park attractions are perfect for that. So I'm very excited. I'm thrilled that we'll have a chance to see MuppetVision 3D. I will watch it. I will laugh. I will enjoy it. But what excited me about this story is just what it unlocks for the future, because I would
You're right.
love to
Yeah.
have it, we could watch the future. And the last example I did, we talked about this a long time ago, but when I first got my Vision Pro, one of the first things that I purchased was an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Dial M for Murder, which is one
I
of his more
remember
favorite
that. Yeah.
movies. But it was actually a 3D movie that came out in, I don't know, the 1950s or something like that. And, nobody shows it anymore. So you would have no way to ever watch this in a theater. It's an old
Right.
movie. But because it has been preserved in a 3D format, I could watch it on my Apple Vision Pro. And you know what? It held up pretty well. Even over the years, it's black and white, but it was 3D black and white. And I'm so happy that that has been preserved for future generations. So anyway, I could talk about this forever, but I think it's a really great idea.
I like the fact. Do we know when it's coming out? I don't know that I
No,
saw a
no,
date
no,
on here. Okay.
nothing.
Okay.
This is not an official announcement, but it did happen because they interviewed people. I mean, Jim Henson would know, not Jim Henson, Brian Henson would know
Brian. Yeah.
what the story is, and he confirmed it.
Sure.
So this is not an
Yeah.
official
Yeah.
announcement from Disney or Apple or anything else like that. It could be a long time before it comes out, but I look forward to it whenever it happens.
That's fantastic. Jeff, you and I are both, I would almost want to say lifetime subscribers to 1Password. That's not entirely accurate, but I think I would be a subscriber to 1Password. I have been for many years, and we had a little bit of, I guess you could say, negative news, but I understand why. A price increase. So the prices on all of the subscriptions for 1Password are going to go up in March, I think toward the end, I guess right before Tech Show, by the way, or during Tech Show there. I think both you and I have 1Password family subscriptions. I know that I do. And let's see, we were paying 59, almost $60, 59.88, which was, I think, a fantastic deal. Happy to pay that. That's going to go up now to $71.88. I'm not budging. I'm still going to be there. I love this article that you linked to from Adam Engst, because once you see something like this, your first thought, and Adam admitted this was his as well, it's like, are there any alternatives? Should I be looking for something else out there? I am so ingrown now within the 1Password world, and everything that Adam said or mentioned, like what 1Password has over and above, even the Passwords app that is now built into the Mac operating system and iOS and everything. I'm like, yes, Adam, everything you said, that's why I'm staying where I am.
Yeah, I agree with him. And he concluded that he's going to stay with 1Password. And I concluded that I'm going to stay with 1Password, notwithstanding this price increase. And I understand things get more expensive over time. That's just life. But I will say I encourage folks to read this article because he does a good job with the pro and con. And I will tell you, for some people, I actually think it would be worth going to Apple's Passwords app.
Agreed.
Because
right.
Apple's Passwords app gets better every year. And especially if you're not sharing with other people, you just have your own thing.
Correct.
And if you live completely in the Apple ecosystem. For me, I use a PC at work, so it's a no-brainer for me, unless Apple was going to ever release the Passwords app for the PC. The chance of that happening, I think, is the big zero. But if you use a Mac, an iPhone, an iPad, you don't use Android, you don't use PCs or anything like that, and you don't have to share with other people, it becomes a closer thing because there's still some unique advantages to 1Password, but the Apple has done a better job at the Passwords app. I mean, not only does it store passwords, right? Not only does it autofill, which is just so convenient, but it even includes things like, browser extensions and two-factor authentication codes and stuff like that, and passkeys, which everybody continues to say will be the next big thing.
Yes.
Apple's Passwords app has that, and we'll get more in the future. So it is and it's free. So, I mean, it's a great price. I mean, it's part of,
it's already built in.
As an Apple user, you get it without paying anything else. So, I do know, again, for me though, the sharing for me is great because, even if it's whatever, $75, $85, whatever it's going to be in the future, have a family account like you. So it's me and my wife
Hmm.
and my two kids. And,
Same.
there are some things that we share amongst ourselves, like, the Netflix password. And then there are some things that just my wife and I have, like, certain utilities and
Yes.
stuff like that. And the
Right.
fact that you can so granularly share things and all those sorts of things,
Yes.
I love. I also love the fact that it's not just passwords. 1Password has built-in abilities to keep everything from like license numbers
That's
to
what he
social
says.
security
Yeah.
numbers to,
Right.
router passwords. And even if even if there isn't something built in, you can have the secure notes feature where you can make anything that you want. You can just put in a secure
Love it.
note. So it's got all these and many other things too. And I like the tags feature. So it's a full featured password app that I love and I totally recommend it. But if someone's out there saying, I don't think it's worth the money for me, so I'm just not going to use any sort of a password manager, I'm like, whoa, 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 you got to use something. And at the very least,
Yes.
use passwords because it is a legitimately good app that Apple does improve every year and it's free.
Does the passwords, Apple Passwords app, allow you to switch between like major vaults? I'm calling them vaults because I have my family vault, but then through my work, they use 1Password. So like there's a
Mm-hmm.
corporate 1Password, and I
Mm-hmm.
can very easily switch back and forth between those. And or I could have them both unlocked, or I could have one unlocked, but there's certain passwords obviously that I use from a work perspective versus what I use from the personal perspective. And because my company has a subscription to 1Password, then I can switch back and forth to depending on what I need or where I'm working in. And I don't know. I think he said that somewhere in here, maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, similar to your to your stop there, the full stop is you have to use something that is cross-platform between Mac OS and Windows. And to me, one
Mm-hmm.
password. There's others out there like LastPass and Bitwarden and several others, but that's number one for you. Like you have to stop right there. For me, it's like even if I did decide I needed to move away from 1Password, I would still have to use 1Password for my company account. And it just so happens that it's very convenient because I already have a family account in there. And so from my aspect, that's not so much of a critical need, but in my opinion, like that keeps me in the 1Password there, along with all of these other things that we're talking about, of course.
Yeah, since I don't use the passwords app, I don't have all the details on it, but I will tell you just as you were talking, I'm looking on the Apple website on their support page, and they say that
Mm-hmm.
they have something called a group, and that you can have a group of people that you share, like basically like a folder, like a subfolder. And as I
Yeah.
understand it, the passwords that are in that subfolder are shared with other people. Now, having said that, do they have to be people? I don't know all the
See,
details of
yeah.
it,
See, I
so
feel like
I'd have to
that
look into it. Yeah.
because the
And
passwords app is tied to your iCloud account. I mean, that's
mhm.
what it ties to, right? So it's not like you can have a separate account within the passwords app. And again, for a lot of people that might be just fine, but I do like having that separate, I guess repository where I can keep, from 1Password as opposed to going into the password. But I think what you're describing is similar to what you and I were just do. We will share passwords amongst our family. That's what that
Hmm.
group sort of sounds like a little bit more to me.
Yeah, as opposed to like an enterprise sharing. But anyway, it's an interesting article.
I would just say I can't find it where he mentioned this, but he did say 1Password has not increased their rates for what the 10 years or something like that, or at
Mm.
least 5 years. It's been a while since they had a price increase. And so he did the calculation, I think somewhere, or maybe somebody else did, to where it really is just trending with, normal inflation. It's almost the exact same price that we were paying 10 years ago. So I don't mind if this is something that 1Password feels that they need to do. I feel like that they've been very fair about not raising their prices every year. Sometimes we see
Hmm.
that from other places. And it's like, since I rely on this so much, I'm willing to support what they need there.
Yeah, let me say one last thing about 1Password. A couple of years ago, I heard people that were concerned that 1Password, because of, some venture capital funding and everything like that, that, they were under pressure to expand. And the fear was that they were going to focus so much more on the corporate and the enterprise side, where presumably they
Right.
could like, sell bigger accounts and make more money, that they
Sure.
would lose focus on just, Joe consumer. I haven't seen that. I will tell you, at the time 1Password said that wasn't true, I suppose, but and I haven't seen it. It remains just as useful for me as an individual user. I don't use 1Password through my law firm. I know that you do have an
Right.
enterprise account that you use,
Mm-hmm.
but so far that concern that people were talking about a few years ago has not appeared. And, knock on wood, hopefully it will continue to be as good as ever. So anyway.
The only other quick fear I have is people will also think they're going to get acquired. I mean,
Sure.
we've been saying for a while that Apple should just buy 1Password. My goodness, like that would have been fantastic because they are so embedded within the operating system. I mean, that's where they started out, right? They didn't even used to have a Windows app and an option, and they've expanded since then. That's part of the subscription on there as well. Adam does say that the previous prices has not changed in a decade, so that's pretty. That's a pretty good track record. I mean, that's great. Okay. So that's enough on 1Password. Let's do a quick in the show. You had several links here, some shows, some updates. Man, we got everything from Ted Lasso, For All Mankind. We have Legacy of Monsters. Good stuff coming out soon.
Yeah, so just to run through them real quick, Ted Lasso season 4, totally looking forward to it. It's going to be a new thing. It's going to be a women's team instead of a men's team. I think they're called the Lady Greyhounds, whatever. And somebody was interviewing Hannah Waddingham, who's one of the stars of the show, and she sort of let it slip. So they asked, when is it coming out? And she goes, oh, it's coming out in August. And then she's like, oh, wait, am I not supposed to say that? So, and she wasn't 100% sure. So this is not an official announcement, but unofficially, we might be seeing it in
from
August.
Waddingham.
So that will be exciting. And she talks about how excited she is about the show. I'm not a big F1 fan, although I did enjoy Apple's F1 movie with Brad Pitt, but the F1 season starts next week. And so Apple was starting to do some of the announcements. And there's a really good article by Jason Snell that goes through all the details. One thing that I would highlight is I've never seen this series, but have you seen the series? Oh, and now I'm forgetting the name of it. It's on Netflix. It's the series about the F1 called, is it Drive to, what's the name of that thing?
I'm trying to find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it.
People are kicking me because whatever the show is called, this is Drive to Survive is the name of it. This is the show.
Drive to Survive. Okay.
It's like a reality show that talks about the drivers. And I know so many people in my life who never knew diddly squat about F1. And then years ago, they watched the first season and they're like, it was such a great show that it got them interested in racing. And so and of course, the show's been out for a number of seasons now. It's about to start the next season. And so I thought they're about to release the season from the recent actors or something like that. But my point in all of this is it was a great, entry drug into, you watch the show, you get interested in the sport, and then you watch the races. And so I thought, well, how fascinating that at least here in the United States, F1 will be on Apple TV, but that show is only on Netflix. And apparently Apple, I guess, Ted, the folks at Apple and the folks at Netflix have gotten together and have solved this because they are now bringing that series, which had only been on Netflix. It's going to continue to be on Netflix, but it's going to also be on Apple TV. And many of us subscribe to both, so you can watch it either place. And you're like, well, why would Netflix agree to that? Well, apparently the quid pro quo, as Apple describes, is Apple is going to take some of the races and they're going to let you watch them instead on Netflix. So they have like a little, a sharing arrangement there. So, good for them. I'm glad people have a chance to do it. But then we're also hearing some of the details of what Apple's doing. Like Apple has that multi-screen mode for sports that I haven't used very much, but like you can have like up to 4 different screens on your Apple TV at one time. And they said they're going to do that for F1. So, and as I understand it, people that watch the races really enjoy getting different perspectives of like you can get from inside the car, outside the rack. So like this would be a very cool way to watch it. And Jason also noted in here that if you have an Apple Vision Pro, you'll actually be able to watch 5 different perspectives instead of 4 at once.
Wow.
Which is interesting. And, I'm still holding out hope. We talked about this last week that maybe Apple will do even more for the Vision Pro with F1. We'll see. If Apple does something really cool for F1 for the Vision Pro, that will cause me to start watching it. I mean, I will tell you, I've been watching those immersive basketball games. Yeah, I've now watched 3 Lakers games, which is 3 more Lakers games than I've ever seen in my entire life, just because they're so fun to watch in immersive video in my Vision Pro that, sometimes I skip around in them because I'm not in market, I have to wait a couple of days. So like I already know I know who won the game before I watch it, but they're just so cool to watch.
You still watch it though. That's crazy.
Who knows if something immersive. So anyway, so that is another exciting announcement. And then I guess the last 2 things are Monarch Legacy of Monsters, which is the Godzilla show. I enjoyed it last year. I mean, it wasn't like the best sci-fi show ever, but it kept my interest. The new season, it actually dropped last night, so I could watch it tonight at home. And the initial reviews have been that it's pretty good. So you haven't watched this one, have you?
Is this? No. Is this Kurt Russell? It
is Kurt Russell. He's in it as his son. His son plays the younger version of him because there's like a time jump in it. So if you were a fan of of the Disney movies from the 1970s, Kurt Russell. You can once again watch Kurt Russell.
You know,
So
I
that's like,
haven't.
go ahead.
I haven't seen these movies, but they are Apple is pushing it hard. Like anything that I jump on with, like, I mean, I think we're watching The Office, on Peacock, and there's ads in there about this Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and I'm like, wait, and I think I said to my wife, is that Kurt Russell like in that movie? Like, I just didn't think it was that big of a movie for,
Yeah.
that big of a star, but hey, it's worth it. I mean, maybe that'll bring somebody in. I'll try it
Yeah.
now. I like Kurt.
I'll watch it. But again, it's not, is it the best show ever? No, but it's cute. I enjoyed it enough. It kept my interest and it's a good sci-fi show. And then like one of my favorite of all the Apple TV shows was For All Mankind. I just love the show so much. I know that some seasons are a little bit slower than others, but when it has its high moments, it is like the best of the best. And so
Yes, I know
the
you
next
like it.
season, which I think is actually going to be the final season, season 5, it starts in a few weeks. In fact, it starts while you and I are going to be in Chicago for Tech Show. So that's going to be a big decision for me on Friday night at Tech Show. Do I go out and have fun with friends, or do I stay in my room and watch my show? I'll probably go out with friends and then save it for a day or two later. But what was cool is we knew that the new season was coming out, but there's also a spinoff. And if you haven't seen the show, you won't know these details. Let's just say there's a spinoff show called Star City, which shows the show from the Russian perspective.
Star City.
And
okay.
What Apple has announced is that the first episode of Star City will drop the same night as the series finale of
wow.
Mankind.
Bonus.
So like that's a great way to do it. All the people that watch all the episodes, you watch the end of it. Hopefully it's going to be a great finale, and then you can start the next show, which is going to be Star City. So lots of exciting Apple TV things coming out, especially if you're a sci-fi fan like I am. So
back to some news. Well, we got like a couple more stories quickly here. This is interesting. We have reported on stories before with Apple going back and forth, making some announcements, getting pressure from governments of different countries about where they're going to manufacture certain either hardware, mostly hardware, right? Whether it's the chips or whether it's the actual computers themselves, whether it's manufacturing it or just assembling it. It's a lot of times that I kind of ask the question, but they just had their story. I saw this. They're going to open a Foxconn facility in Houston or around Houston to specifically manufacture the Mac Mini. That will be interesting.
Yeah. So, Apple uses Foxconn for most of its manufacturing, which is in China. They rely upon Taiwan Semiconductor, whatever, TSMC, which is in Taiwan. And look, I know that there's political issues with Donald Trump, says America first and all of his nonsense. And I know that they're under political pressure. But even if you're not a crazy MAGA head, there are still reasons why you want to have diversified production, right? Just for example, the semiconductors, having all of your chips for the iPhone, your most important product, are being made on an island where there could be like, earthquakes, not to mention the political threats that, everybody thinks there's a chance that China is going to take over Taiwan. That's instability. And so Apple has been trying to expand that. And likewise with China, the China situation, we talked a year or so ago about that book, Apple in China, which was so good, that is such a volatile situation that Apple does not want to put their eggs in one basket. So they are trying to diversify. And so Foxconn, which is a company that they work with, Foxconn doesn't just make stuff in China. They have places around the country. They already have a facility in Houston, but what they've announced is they're expanding it, and it's going to be a huge facility. It's going to make Mac Minis, not all the Mac Minis, maybe just the Mac Minis sold in the United States. And I know the Mac Mini is probably the smallest of the production number of all the Macs that are made, right? Because MacBook Pros, everybody buys laptops. Very few people buy Mac Minis, but some people do, like me. I have a Mac Mini at home.
You have one, right?
I will buy another Mac Mini in the future, and maybe the next one that I make is in Houston. So it makes sense to diversify. And so that will be good. But then also in this announcement in the Wall Street Journal, not only are they going to have the Foxconn plant there where they're going to be working very closely with Apple, but they're also going to be doing some training for advanced manufacturing, because this is what I often hear people say, that even if you want to manufacture modern technology in the United States, one of the problems is that we haven't been training people on the type of work that you need to do to make these things for decades, like they have been doing in China. In China, if you want to have a new production facility, you snap your finger and you can have tens of thousands of trained people that are there making it. We don't have that in the US. And so I think it's a good idea to have some training, in the Houston area. And so I for all sorts of reasons, and I know that Apple's releasing this press release for PR reasons, and that's fine, but I actually think that there's some good business sense here.
Jeff, I think one of the most used apps on an iPhone, I would speak from my own experience, my kids' experience, and most people that I see, is got to be Apple Notes. I mean, if it's got to be in the top five, if not the top three, along with messages and maybe photos. But Apple Notes is like my go-to place to capture a thought, or maybe even like if I have a draft of like a post that I want to do, it is the place that I pull up. So I was thrilled to see this article from Macworld that you linked to today, uncovering hidden tricks. I think he's got 10 on here. Most of these I kind of knew, but again, as we always say with these things, it's good for the reminder.
Yeah, and there's some advanced things you can do with notes. And even if you consider yourself someone who uses the Notes app all the time, there's a lot of things that are talked about in this article that you may not think about all the, right away. For example, if you want just a quick and dirty way to transcribe something, let's say you're talking to someone and there's no confidentiality issues, you just want to just have it recorded, you can very quickly open up the Notes app, press the little microphone icon, and as people talk, it will transcribe in real time what you say. And there's other apps that will do this too, but like the Notes app is a quick and easy one to do it. And you may not think about using the Notes app for that. I'll mention one more thing he mentioned in here, which is that we were talking about like, what if you don't want to use 1Password and you want to use the Passwords app instead? One of the things that the Passwords app lacks is a secure notes feature, but it doesn't, that's okay it lacks it because that's in Notes. If you have something in your Notes app, you can actually password protect a Notes app so that you need to have Face ID to see it. And so that way, if there's ever a chance that you're handing your note to like, a child who's playing a game on your iPhone or something like that, and you just don't want them to open up the, by accident or otherwise, do not open up the note that has the birthday present ideas I have for you in it or something like that. You can put it behind this. I always use, there's a notes feature in 1Password that I use for stuff like this. And again, not that I really ever give my phone away to anyone else, but just on the off chance, I just feel better knowing that it's locked down. And Notes has that feature too. So anyway, this is a good post for some advanced tips of things that you can do.
That lock feature is good. Like you, I put most things that I want to put behind some kind of a lock in something like 1Password. And I don't have a lot of locked notes in Notes, but I do have a few. If it's like, ideas for a Christmas gift for my wife or something like that. And I just lock it down because I just want to make sure that nobody else can get to it, that kind of a thing. But it is really easy to do that. And it's good. Anyway, that's some good tips on there. Another good tip, I think, from my friend Jeff Richardson, if you have an iPad Pro, get a Magic Keyboard. I know we've talked about this a while. You've had this Magic Keyboard for a while now. I remember when you got it and you've been saying you've got a review coming out. And finally this week, you put the review out and it's a good one.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this review for months now, and I know that the Magic Keyboard for iPad has been out for years and years and years. But a couple of weeks ago, before you hit the record button, I remember telling you when we were just chatting one morning, I'm like, Brett, this thing is amazing. And you're like, I know, like you've been telling me this. But I was like, I was interested because I'm like, you know what? What's the big deal? I've already got an external Bluetooth keyboard. And, so much of my iPad, I use it in tablet mode. And so why do plus it's expensive. Why do I need this thing? And I mean, I wrote about this in detail in my review. Oh my goodness. I mean, this is one of the best technology accessory purchases that I have ever made for any iPhone or iPad. It is that good.
Them were strong words, my friend. That's great.
This thing is incredible. I mean, even as I'm sitting here talking to you, my iPad is next to me with our show notes so I can see the articles that you're talking about. And it just sort of holds it in a nice position. And I would traditionally use that with this the holder that's still just sitting in the side.
Oh, wow. The little,
But it's so much nicer here because as you know, it's got the cord on the side of it. And so my iPad is being fully charged as it's here. Plus, if I want to just pick it up, I just pick it up. I don't have to unplug the cord or anything like that. I just pick it up and I look at it and I put it back down. Of course, the keyboard is fantastic. It's an Apple keyboard that's got really good quality and stuff like that. The everything about it is just it has really transformed the way that I use my device. It's just amazing. The trackpad is so good and so useful. In the newest version of iPad OS 26, there are all these cool things that you can do with menus. I know the iPad's not a computer, but sometimes you want to use the iPad like a computer with a precise little pointer, and it works so well with the trackpad. I cannot gush enough. This has really been, I still love my Apple Pencil. Don't get me wrong. That's an amazing accessory as well. But the combination together, and they work perfectly well together. My Apple Pencil's at the top. I've got my keyboard down here. It has been Awesome. And so, if you have at all been thinking about this, and if you own an iPad, you probably have because it's been around for years and years, and the new versions are better than the
Right.
old version. Um, this is definitely something to get. I bought it when it was on a Black Friday sale, just after Thanksgiving last year. But if I had any idea how useful this thing is, I would definitely get it. Now, I hope, the model that I purchased, which I use with, let's see, I've got the iPad Pro M4. You
Right.
own the iPad Pro M5, and the
I
exact
do.
same keyboard works with both of them.
Yes,
At some point in the
absolutely.
future, I don't know if it will be this calendar year or not. Apple, I guess, will announce an iPad Pro M6, maybe in 2026, maybe in 2027. And whenever they do that, will this exact same accessory
Maybe
continue
next
to work
week.
with the next one? I don't know. Maybe next week, although I haven't heard that
Yeah,
rumor. Um,
I know.
I don't know. I hope it lasts for a long time. But I tell you what, I mean, this is just, it is so amazing. And it doesn't take away. I still love my iPad as a tablet.
Yes.
I
Right.
still hold
Right.
it in my hand. I was using it yesterday. I was in an all-day mediation over Zoom and I had it in my hand, but then I could just put it down and it just attaches magnetically. I know I'm preaching to the choir because you've been on this train for a long time and you're like, yeah, Jeff, you're just now
Indeed.
realizing this. But
I'm so
seriously,
happy though. That's
it
great.
is so good. So good.
You did such a good job in your review of going into some of the details. But I would tell you, yesterday I was at a conference. I didn't have a table in front of me, so I was sitting sort of in the back. But I had my iPad. That's how I wanted to take some notes in what we were doing. And so I pull it out. My iPad now, I think like you, is pretty much always in this keyboard. Like that's how I carry it, right?
Hmm.
So I pull it out of my
Hmm.
bag and it's in the keyboard. But I wanted to take notes as if handwriting with the Apple Pencil. So just like you said, I would take it off of the keyboard, and I would pretty much close the keyboard and then set the iPad on top of it in portrait mode, typically because I like it. It
Hmm.
feels like it's a like a legal pad that I'm writing on. But one thing I wanted to ask you just real quick in here, you mentioned which I found like when I do take the iPad off the keyboard, it's a little slick. It's slippery a little bit because there's nothing on the
Hmm.
back. And you're right. The Apple Smart Folio, I don't know if you have it there. Is that the one that folds back? Okay, there it is. So that's the
Hmm.
one that it folds back. Like you can open it up and it folds back on itself under on
Hmm.
the back of the iPad.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there were times perfect. Okay, that's what I thought. There were times at this conference that's exactly what I wish I had because I feel like
Yeah.
it would have just I would have had a little bit more confidence in it because a lot of times on this you go to a conference I like they're putting something up on the screen and I'm using Notability taking notes and I like to take a picture of what they have on the screen so I can embed that into my notes and write some additional notes on it, what they're talking about. And when I held that up, I'm typically doing one hand and I'm just always just a little nervous that it could slip out or something. And so I thought that was brilliant that you talked about that Smart Folio still, that you still carry that with you all the time.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure how this was going to work out, but it actually has been fine. So like I lift up my iPad off of the Magic Keyboard and I just
Okay.
slip it inside of the little folio here. And so now that's it. Now it's in and it attaches magnetically
Ah,
here. And so I can
yeah.
use it, I can
Yeah.
hold it, and it's got the grip, because of the finish on
Yes.
it. So I feel much more
Right.
secure. And you just talked about the reason that you want to have it more secure in your hand, and I agree. But the other thing I like about it is, the folio you fold up into the little triangle, and that way I can sit my iPad right on my
Yes.
desk and it's at an angle, which is if I'm like taking notes, instead of having my iPad flat, I prefer having
Yeah.
my iPad
Yeah.
at
It's
that
just a
slight angle.
little.
And so, and
Yep.
again, this was one of the reasons that I did not that for so many years I did not get the Magic Keyboard because I'm like, I love the folio so much. But you know what? I just take it out and I stick it on top of the keypad and it's there. And the folio by itself is so thin, like you can see how thin it is, that I can take
Yeah.
this
You just
and I
slip
can
it
I
in.
can put it right next to my bag and then put it right next to the Magic Keyboard folded
Okay.
over and leave
Okay.
it together, and it's totally not a problem at all. And it works. And so I wasn't sure how I was going to manage it, and that's the way I do it. Now, sometimes I forget, like I'm here in my office, and like when I go home for the weekend, I may just close up my iPad and the Magic Keyboard and take it home, and I may forget this folio, and then maybe I'll be sitting on my couch thinking, "Oh gosh, I wish I had the folio with me."
Wish you
So
had
I
the
try
folio.
I try to remember it, but again, overall, the
Not
Magic
always.
Keyboard is so much more. As much as the folio is useful, the Magic Keyboard is so much more useful that like most of the time I want to have it in that Magic Keyboard. Some of the time I want to have it where I
Yeah.
just lift it out and I just hold it like this,
Yeah.
and then sometimes I also want it in the folio, and they all work great.
Yeah, that's good. And I have to tell you, I just upgraded this maybe a month and a half ago to this N5 and M5 and the newer Magic keyboard because I had a 2021 I think there was an M1 iPad when that one first
Right.
came out, or 2022. And I had that Magic Keyboard at the time. And it was fantastic. But this is slimmer and so much more functional because you go into detail talking about that extra row of what we typically call function keys. I don't know, they're not like full size function keys, but it has the escape key. But just even having the brightness controls right there, or the audio playback controls, just amazing. Even the audio controls up there
Volume
are
controls.
just
Yeah,
amazing.
very nice.
To have all of that on there. And this keyboard, the current Magic Keyboard, so much better than the older one. And I didn't think the older one was bad, but man, I knew I wanted to have this function row when this one was announced, and it took me a while to get to it. But yeah, I'm extremely happy too. So thank you for finally putting your review out because I think it's great. And as you say at the very bottom, the reason you hesitated for so long, and reason most people are probably hesitating, is the keyboard is $350. Now, you did good to show that camel, sometimes it'll go down. You bought it on a Black Friday sale, but that's still, I mean, you're already paying $1,400 for the iPad, typically, depending on what model you get, and then an additional $350 on top of it. That's a hard pill to swallow, because then, of course, you got to get the Apple Pencil too. So you're just, and that's $120, $150. So that it adds up quick. And that was a hard pill to swallow on this, but it's so useful and so much what I do, just like what you were saying, that it's worth it. It's worth it, especially if you're using it from a professional standpoint.
An iPad and a Magic Keyboard and a stylus, the Apple Pencil, those three together are going to be more expensive than a laptop. I mean, they just are. That is what it is. But for me, it's more useful than a laptop, and I wouldn't want to not have it.
Yes.
But much like when the Apple Pencil came out, we all said, this nails it. Like, why would you get a third-party stylus? This is so much better.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with the Magic Keyboard. This at least the second generation version, it is so much better than an alternative that it's like, game over. There's no reason to use anything else. This is the one.
Let's move on to in the know, because my in the know is directly relevant to this. So the other reason I love using the Magic Keyboard is because one of the things that I've been doing since I've been a wee little lad on the computers is Alt Tab on Windows and Command Tab on the Mac. And I love being able to Command Tab on the iPad as well. And some of these keyboard shortcuts work out so well. But there's one key on this Magic Keyboard that I haven't been using all that much, Jeff, and that is the little globe icon. It is like the furthest in the bottom left of the keyboard over there, right? Now, if you are typing somewhere, so here's just a few tips, and there's a lot more where this comes from, but here's just a few tips. You got it right there. That's the globe icon. They call it the globe key. If you have a blinking cursor somewhere and you tap the globe icon, it will pull up an emoji picker. So first of all, that in and of itself is really great, because then you don't have to bring up, otherwise you'd have to bring up the on-screen iPad keyboard and then go to the emoji keyboard to be able to find the emojis. And maybe there's some other ways to do it, but anywhere you have a blinking cursor, hit the globe icon, and that brings up an emoji picker, which is great. But let's go further. This is a story I found from 2021. I didn't even know the globe key could do as much as it could do, but I'll make sure this article is in the show notes. Here's my favorite. Today, we have windowed mode on the iPad, and you can drag and drop the corners of an app to resize it, to move it over to somewhere else. Using the globe key with the control key and then the left or right arrow, whatever app that you have is active and open, when you hit globe control left arrow, it'll move that window over to the left, as in split view on there.
Very cool.
And so you do right arrow and it'll move it to the right on there. So these are new keyboard shortcuts on the iPad that I've got to start learning now.
And if you do the up arrow, it goes to the top. And if you do the down arrow, it goes to the bottom.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes. Wow. Very cool on that. The other one that I like is, I just talked about the Command Tab on there, and I use that because that's muscle memory for me after years and years and years and years. But if you've got multiple apps open as well, you can do this. If you do globe and left or right arrow, if you do that, it will actually go to, this is the same as if, we've talked about this, a 4-finger swipe to the left or right. But many times I am having my hands on the keyboard, and I could, it's not that big of a deal to like lift your hand up and move it, but then I got to put my hand down. There are times where I just appreciate some of these keyboard shortcuts on there. And there's several more on here. So for example, if you've got that split view, so you do globe, control left arrow puts it over to the right. Like you said, you do up arrow puts it up to the top. If you do globe F, it will put that window in full screen then at that point.
Cool.
Yeah. So there's a few more on here. I know. Like I said, I don't use that globe key enough. And this article is from somebody, Aditya at Over Optimize. Again, this is from 2021. And I just like, thank you. Like all of these shortcuts still work. It's just, these are not typically ones that I would know about because we don't really have the, and in fact, I didn't think about it, but I wonder if that would work on the Mac as well. It's just, I know because on the Mac, that key is not just a globe key, it's also a function key. And I guess it is on the iPad, on the Magic Keyboard as well. But anyway, just some neat tips. I'll make sure that it's in the show notes on there.
Okay.
Oh, here's another one. I like this one too.
Yeah, go.
Do globe C. If you do globe C, that opens the control center. Isn't that great? Because, you got to get your finger right above like the battery power on the upper right corner, but you do globe C and that'll open and close the control center.
Wow.
I thought that's a good one. That's a really good one too.
I did not see the show notes before we started the show today, so I did not know that you were going to do this tip. And I have just learned so much because, like I said, I've been using this Magic Keyboard for 3 months, and I'm embarrassed to say, Brett, I didn't really pay attention to that globe key because it's not a key that I traditionally use. And like even just the emoji picker, like when I'm doing like a text message and you want to quickly pick like a smiley face or some sort of silly thing,
exactly.
check mark. Wow. This is, I need to, so please put this in the show notes for me, even if you don't do it for anybody else. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to read all of these. Wow.
It's good.
Bravo. This is awesome stuff. Okay. The reason I did not see your tip before you hit record this morning is because I was late running into the office. And the reason I was late running into the office is much like you need to run to the airport later on today. I went to the airport this morning to bring my wife because she's traveling right now. And so I had to go to the airport and then come back into the office, which is a total pain because, the airport's all the way in Kenner and I got to drive all the way back to downtown New Orleans.
That's a drive for you.
And it was, and I was doing it during rush hour, on my way here. Normally it's no fun. But today, Brett, it was miserable because we had like this big rainstorm coming through New Orleans. In fact, I saw on a map, it stretched all the way from North Carolina to like the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, this thing was a huge storm and it was right on top of me. So it made me think about the weather. And so I have 2 weather-related tips today. One of them, it's not a new tip. It's just something I was using this morning. And my first one has to do with Carrot Weather, which is the app that I really enjoy for most of my weather stuff. Carrot Weather for a while now, or at least since last year, has had, I guess because the article you're showing us from January. So for just over a year, they have had a CarPlay app. And I used it this morning coming into work. And here's why. If I'm just looking at a regular map app, and I actually, tapped in work just to see how long it was going to take me to get to work this morning. And I could see that I was going to be cutting it close with me getting to work on time for recording this podcast. But then instead of looking at the map app, and the only thing that showed me, because I certainly know how to drive from the New Orleans airport to my office, it showed me like the parts of the road that were really red because the traffic was so slow because of the traffic and the weather and everything else. But what I did in CarPlay is I launched the Carrot Weather app. And what the Carrot Weather app does is it has a map. And if you hit the plus, you can like zoom all the way into like the street, the pretty close to like a street level. So I'm driving on the interstate and I could see because of the blotches of green and yellow and unfortunately really, really dark orange, I could see as I'm driving along the interstate, oh, wow, like it's bad right now. And I can see that in about 5 minutes, it's going to be horrible. And so I just braced myself and I got ready for it. And then sure enough, when I got there, and for me, this is like, if you're driving and you're driving through really bad weather, you want to know where is the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And unfortunately for me, there wasn't one. It was even getting worse, but I enjoyed using the Carrot Weather app for this reason. Now, a couple caveats on it. First of all, for the Apple Maps app, the little dot that shows you where you are, I'm used to that staying in one place and the map moves underneath you as you go. The Carrot Weather app doesn't work that way. Like my dot, as I'm driving on the interstate, would just move across the map. And then at one point, it even sort of got off the map. And then I sort of reached off to my CarPlay screen and I just sort of swiped a little bit. And then I got myself centered again. But then there were other
I
times
see.
that it
Okay.
actually did update where I was. So I don't know the rhyme or reason of how it updates and how it doesn't. Second thing I'll point out is that the weather data that it has, it's not like to the second live radar, right? It updates once every, I don't know, every 5 minutes or something like that. And so,
Okay.
just it's a rough estimate. I mean, when I drove on the map to the part that went from like yellow to orange, it wasn't like that very instant the weather got really bad because it was probably there 5 minutes ago and the storm systems moved a little bit, right?
Right.
But it's
Right.
close enough. I mean, it's close enough for you to get a sense of the general how it's going. Third thing I'll mention is, although it only gives you a weather, on a map. It doesn't give you driving directions, right? But I had
Sure.
previously told the Apple Maps app that I was driving to work, not because I needed directions to how to get to work, but because I was just, seeing how long it was going to take me to get
Seeing
there.
the traffic. Right.
And I noticed that while I was in Carrot Weather, whenever it was time to like do a turn, and this is not unique to Carrot Weather, this works on anything on CarPlay, I would get like a little flash up screen that would say,
A notification. Right.
a
Yeah.
notification. And in a half a mile, you're gonna have to take a left to go this way, which is something I knew. But my point is just that you can use the Carrot Weather CarPlay app and still have driving directions. It won't be on the screen all the
Oh
time,
yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it will
That's a good
come up
point.
to give you it will give you the alert for when you have to turn and stuff. So you just need to be paying attention that you don't miss it. But that was good. So anyway, that was my experience with Carrot Weather this morning. And again, hopefully, I mean, I'm very lucky that my house is very close to my office. So it's very rare for me to have that, 45-minute commute into the office. But if you do
Right.
have it, or if you're taking a cross-country trip, I just want to say thumbs up to Carrot Weather. I really was happy to have the CarPlay app. I was not very happy about the weather, but I was happy that at least I had a sense of,
You had some
where is it
info.
now? How is it getting
Yeah.
better? Yeah. So knowledge is power, right? So that's the first thing. The second app I was going to mention today is, we've talked in the past about the Dark Sky app, which was, around
Oh
for
yeah.
many years. It became
And
famous
then
because it was the one that would tell you it's going to start raining in 2 minutes. And sure enough, in 2 minutes, you got to open up your umbrella, it
right.
starts raining. Apple bought that app and the people behind
Correct.
it, Dark Sky. And so that's all built into the Apple Weather app now, which is really good. Plus, you can use it in
Which is
third party,
good.
like my Carrot Weather app can use the Apple data, which is Dark Sky data, which is really good. But the people that were responsible for the app, I guess they were at Apple for a number of years, and then they decided to go out on their own and start something else.
Yeah.
And what did they make? Another weather app. And the one that they made is called Acme Weather. And
Acme
I
weather.
just got it this week. It's you have to pay for it, but it's got a 2 week free trial. And I'm still within that 2 week free period. And here is the one cool feature it has. Do you have the screenshot that I sent you just before we
I
started
do.
recording
Yeah.
this
You
morning?
sent me a
Yeah.
screenshot.
So
Here we
two
go.
things I want to say about the app. First of all, it's a very beautiful design. It's got nice
It's
big fonts. Like
lovely.
you open up
Yeah.
the thing and it says, here's your current location, because this is my office, this is the temperature right now. You can see, you see the next hour, you see that little, like the rain's coming to an end. That's the rain that I drove through. Believe me, it was at the heavy
Oof.
stage when I was driving through it. But so it's a nice weather app that has the information that you would need. But as you scroll down, you can see on the right side, like many weather apps, it will have a feature of showing you like a little timeline of what's the temperature going to be between
Mm-hmm.
right now, in the afternoon, in the evening. And so I can see the temperature going up and down. But their unique feature is, how different weather sources will give you a different forecast. And so in Carrot Weather, sometimes I will change my weather source from Apple to
Yeah.
Foraca to NOAA to they just had the
Or
Weather Channel. It's one of those
AccuWeather.
things
Yeah. Something.
because AccuWeather, just to sort of get a second opinion. This app has the clever idea of what if we showed you the second opinion all at the same time? And so as you can see, if you scroll down on
Oh.
what I'm showing in the picture, it's
Yeah.
predicting that today, for example, this afternoon at 3 o'clock, it's going to be 74 degrees. Okay. But if I put my finger on it, which is what I did when I took the screenshot, you see that up and down line on the 74. As I scrolled my
Yeah.
finger on it, it has a little pop-up that tells me, well, actually, the different forecast models are predicting anywhere from as low of 71 to as high as 78. So now I know, well, actually,
Okay. So
it might be 74
it could
degrees,
vary.
but it could be higher or it could be lower. But then there are other parts on it where, and you can sort of see it because it's like a gray line on two sides. But then there are other parts of the
Yeah.
forecast where all the forecasts are aligned. At 3
Yeah.
a.m. this
Yeah.
morning, it's going to be 59 degrees. And pretty much all the forecasts
All of
agree that
them
it's going to be.
agree.
So, to the extent that you want to know, does my life change based upon whether it's 59 or 60 or 61? No. But it's nice to just have that sense of, instead of having to manually open up different weather apps or change the source within the same app, now I can just take a quick look and see, well, yeah, it's pretty much going to be in the 70s. Everybody agrees it's going to be in the 70s. No one's saying it's going to be in the 30s or whatever. And then when you see like all the lines are aligned, then you're like, okay, well, the weather apps are all consistent, that this is going to be the temperature, or this is going to be the weather, or whatever it is. So I just think it's a clever idea. Now, is Acme Weather going to be my new weather app? I don't know. Am I going to hold on to it past the 2-week time period? I haven't decided yet. I'll be honest with you. If this was not coming from the guys who made Dark Sky, I don't know if I would stick with it. But because I love what they did 15, 20 years ago with Dark Sky, I'm going to give them probably the benefit of the doubt that I'll probably subscribe to it for the first year just to see what I think. So anyway, if weather is important to you, and weather, believe me, is on my mind this morning, this is an app that I encourage you to check out, Acme Weather.
They call these alternate predictions. He says, I guess this is their intro letter to everyone, alternate possible futures. And you can see, and I do like the fact that it shows that, because you can see what that variance, could possibly be. I saw this too, and for the exact same reason, I went and downloaded it immediately, and I was like, good, I just want to kind of see what it can do. But they don't let you see anything in the app unless you actually sign up for the trial, right? I couldn't get past that. You can sign up for the trial, but then you can cancel within 2 weeks. And I know that. Generous. So just go ahead and sign up for it. I agree. Okay,
don't forget to cancel, because you don't want to pay for it if you don't want it. So just give yourself a reminder,
That's it. I guess it just, what I was doing.
Cancel it in 13 days.
That sort of ticked me off. It's like, well, I just want to see it. Like, I know it's going to look good. I can see. I mean, I love the font choice that they have, and like the size of it and everything. It's really nice. And like you said, as soon as I saw it came from Dark Sky developers, I'm like, oh well, okay, good. I'm definitely going to try that on there. But you're right. I should sign up. I just have to make a note to myself to remember to cancel it, and I didn't want to do that at the time, but. I mean, they don't come with snarky like Carrot Weather does, but I guess that was a little snarky to me. It's like, hey, we're gonna make you sign up for a trial. I mean, that's brilliant, kind of, in a way, that they would do that. But okay, so that's good. So CarPlay, Carrot Weather, CarPlay, and Acme Weather. I mean, I guess you couldn't get to any kind of a plain Jane vanilla name than Acme Weather, but I guess that's what they're going with on there. Anyway, great stuff on there. Lots of good stuff. By this time next Friday, we are going to be talking about a lot of products. That's my alternate future prediction for next Friday, Jeff. There will be a lot going on starting Monday. I mean, I feel like it's at this point, I'm almost going to be overwhelmed with like how much is going to be announced next week and being able to track it all. But we will do it. I know you will do it, and you'll write about it next week. So we'll talk with you next week.
Thanks, Brad. Bye-bye, everybody.